Hey, what's good, people? I have no idea what episode this is, but this is not the option. This is something else. This is Fight and Sight. Is it the Fight and Sight podcast? No, it's Sports Debate Tuesday. That guy looks like Timmy B. Hit my music, and the episode starts right now. It's good, Tim. It's been a minute.
What's up, buddy? It's good to be back, man. Haven't seen you in forever.
Yeah, it's been a minute, and I'm very happy to see you too, man. Hey guys, along with my man MMA commentator Timmy B, I am Jason DeBiss. This is another episode of Sports Debate Tuesday, which has been almost exclusively for MMA reasons, almost exclusively to have this man on my show. And you know the format for those of you that have seen this before, so let's get popping. It's late. But you know what? The party starts after this. So topic number one, we got a UFC coming up. So and a lot of it centers around our favorite fighter, Jon Jones. All right. So listen, Jon Jones has pretty much fought a slew of fighters to get to where he has to get. I bring your attention to Stefan Bonner, decision win. I thought was a very, very good performance. All the way to Shogun, having that opportunity, beating an undefeated Ryan Bader, 3 weeks notice to get to Shogun. And then from there, Rashad Evans, Lyoto Machida, Rampage Jackson, a slew of people who were in their prime. And maybe Shogun might have been a little bit longer at the tooth at the time he fought him, but still close enough
Yeah.
to their prime and still beating people. And then there are some people who weren't at their prime, and some of those people, although some of those people never made their prime because when they fought Jon Jones, they were not the same fighter since. I bring your attention to Thiago Santos. I bring your attention to Dominic Reyes, who is guys who have been losing ever since. So my
Yeah.
challenge question to you, and we'll start right out the block because I've been yapping long enough. Got to give Timmy B some room to talk. Who in their prime could have presented Jon Jones with a challenge, or even will be so bold as us to suggest would win?
Well, you got to say Francis Ngannou, right? The current UFC heavyweight champion, Francis Ngannou. I think in his prime, which possibly is right now as we speak, I think he gives Jon Jones a hard time. And the difficult thing too is like prime Jon Jones was not heavyweight Jon Jones either. We got to remember that, right? Like right now we're kind of looking at him versus heavyweights, which is a weird division in and of itself. But if you're looking at him at light heavyweight, then boy oh boy, you got to look at Alex Pereira, right? Like you got to look at Poatan, who's now tearing up the ranks. In my opinion, probably higher on the GOAT list, maybe than Jon Jones, right? The people that he's fighting, the way he's doing it. And I will say, when you're talking about those names that Jon Jones fought, when you say Stephan Bonner, Ryan Bader, blah blah, are those world beaters? I don't know, man. He beat a who's who in terms of names, but I don't know that he was beating like guys who we all thought were the thing, or like the greatest. So it's kind of hard. I don't know. I find that there's a lot of people, don't kill me, but Cain Velasquez too, man. The people that he beat during their runs, I don't know that they were always the greatest. Leona Machida, Rampage Jackson, were those guys the greatest, or were they just a hot thing in the moment, in the time? I don't know. It's difficult. Sometimes you'll see divisions where that happens. So I don't know, but I think Francis Ngannou gives him a hell of a hard time at heavyweight, and I think Alex Pereira gives him a hell of a hard time at light heavyweight. Both of them in their prime right now as we're speaking.
I'd like to start with the easy part. I'd like to start with Francis Ngannou because after his last match with Stipe Miocic and watching him not only stuff a takedown but like spin the like back control from the top, standing up and almost had top position, and how fast his hands are. I know Jon Jones just has a strong chin, and maybe even the stronger chin because he doesn't have to water down to win it to light heavyweight, but everyone has a strong chin until you get dropped by Francis Ngannou. When I mean just
Right.
dropped clean, and not to mention the guy's body kicks and this and that. So he's impressed me with his wrestling. So I got to go with that a little bit. Let's not forget Fyodor Emelianenko. I think Fedor in his prime
Yeah.
was beating everybody, and Fedor has very very dangerous slips. So a lot of times where Jon Jones is changing levels to go for takedowns, he'll run into something that he doesn't see coming, that a lot of people didn't see coming, courtesy of Fedor. Now for the hard part, as we count down, because we can re-explore this light heavyweight division. I did mention Stefan Bonner, and I did mention Ryan Bader, who we don't think highly of, and Machida might have been longer at the tooth, but let's take into consider Rashad Evans. Let's take into consideration Alex Gustafsson, who at that time I thought that was the best version that Alex Gustafsson had to represent. Let's talk about Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier had to eat a couple of salads to get to light heavyweight, but beating him twice, albeit one, was a reverse decision, a rightful one, does lay some credence. And now I have the privilege, or should I say, the laziness to punt this question to you. Is it because Jones made this division look very, very ordinary? Because if you remember, you and I have been in there for a while. We thought that division had killers. When we saw Shogun, when we saw Machida beat Thiago Silva, who was a dangerous fighter back then. Remember, he beat the bell, or beat the count with like a last second knockout for the first round. And Shogun and Machida, Rashad Evans looked good, but then again, it's weird, right? Rampage looked dangerous, and then Forrest Griffin beat him, right? Who we think highly of, but not that highly.
No, yeah, of course, of course. I mean, like I was just watching clips of when Forrest lost to Anderson Silva, and Joe Rogan makes the comment like, Forrest is a great guy, but boy, that's the most embarrassing knockout ever, right? Like you forget how. I think the thing is, and we've talked about this, I think, and people talk about this a lot, but like Ronda Rousey, right? Went on her run in the UFC and made everyone look terrible. Armbar, 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 armbar. Makes everybody look terrible. But then the division changed and it grew. And I think that might have been what Jon Jones was doing too. Like maybe during that time, the division, all those guys were very equal against one another and all very competitive against one another. But he was kind of that one level above. And yes, that's what made him amazing. But I feel like the rest of the pack was a little bit lower. You know what I mean? Like there's that, it's just to put it in wrestling terms, right? Like you had the Shawn Michaels and then you had everybody else. You know what I mean? Like nobody could
Sure.
beat him. Like he was that level, right? Or whoever the heck it wants to be at that time. It's a weird thing. So I don't know, man. Even like the Daniel Cormier, like that was a heavyweight guy that dropped down to light heavyweight. He was a big boy. He was not in shape, you
Right.
know. That's a tough win, right? Rampage Jackson, I feel like was probably out of his prime as well.
But
And
he
then
did.
when
But
you're
he
saying
did
names like,
admit had the best training camp of his career.
sure, you're always gonna say that. I had the best training camp for this
No,
podcast,
he said it
Jason,
after
but
the fight. Which
yeah,
which you,
sure,
no,
sure,
but you only say that. Listen, you know this. Fighters only say that before the fight, and then after the fight, oh yeah, I tweaked my ankle, I did this. No,
right.
Rampage didn't do that. Rampage said, no, I was
Yes.
ready for this, and it wasn't good enough. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah,
but again, by that time, he had kind of seen his heyday over in Pride and stuff like that, right? So
yeah.
he was kind of humbled already, right? He wasn't looking for probably a rematch or anything like that. He got that payday. He's very happy about it. He's, at that time, he's humble.
Hmm.
I like that. I just interviewed a guy the other day that was so funny. He had videotaped himself talking about some injuries he had and he didn't release it until after the fight, a fight that he won, but he wanted to not release it because he didn't want to give anybody an excuse or
Right.
anything like that beforehand. But he did want to document, like, hey, I'm seriously injured here. I think it was like a little over a week out. He like couldn't even walk. He was that badly
Oh
hurt.
dear. Wow,
Still
dude.
makes it to the fight, still does it, and then he released it to go, hey, look, I was thinking now kind of like giving himself kudos, right? To go like, look how badass I am. But
Yeah, because if I
that was
wasn't
cool. I liked
injured,
it.
I would have won even better, right? Yeah. There's that.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
kind of
Yeah,
that.
kind of, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
But yeah, I don't know.
I'd like to finish before we go into the next segment. I know that Jon Jones would have been heavily favored to beat Anthony Johnson, but someone like that has like one punch KO at heavyweight and light heavyweight, and even if I remind everybody, the guy sucked down and fought as low as 170. I remember he fought a tough finale guy and just absolutely starched him.
Yeah.
That would have been an interesting match, though we know once it got close, we kind of know how that would have went because Jon Jones, again, is not just a super athlete; he's a very good game planner. I remember him dislocating Glover Teixeira's shoulder the first round. He kind of like popped it,
Yeah.
and I think it's weird because I think if he knew he did that, it'd be an easier fight. So, and Glover
Sure.
was one of the guys I thought that were, stylistically, styles make matchups. Dominic Reyes, I still contend, and I love Jon Jones, but I really thought Dominic Reyes won the first three fights. But
Yeah.
everybody was the first three rounds. I mean, but everybody was happy Jones won it because everybody's like, oh, Jones finished strong, and if there was a 6th round, he would have won. So there was that dynamic
Right.
that didn't sway the judges, but swayed everybody being okay with that decision. But in the classic format of mixed martial arts, I felt he did win round 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
Rewatching
there's a
it.
big argument to be made that Dominic Reyes beat Jon Jones in that fight, and also
Yeah.
that the Gustafsson fight, right? The first Gustafsson fight.
Yep.
Gustafsson, there's a strong argument to be made that he really should have won that fight as well.
Yep. I actually thought Jones won that, but you're not. But your
Yeah,
point is no. There was an argument that he could have won that fight.
yeah,
Thiago Santos was a split decision, which I thought was kind of bizarre, but the judges were kind of like that. If you watch that whole card, you see it in the
yeah, yeah.
prelims. You'll see it in the prelims. You see like this decision where this guy runs two like 29-28, but then one judge gave the other guy like 30-27.
30,
And you're
27, yeah.
just like, can we give this guy the rest of the night off? Because this is a
Yeah,
foreshadowing of what's to
yeah,
come.
yeah.
All right.
It's tough.
You got it.
Yeah, it's tough, man. But but then you look and all those fights that we're talking about are kind of later, right before Jones goes away as well.
Mhm.
So like, you know what I mean? Like, had he kind of stayed in it and not left, stayed away from the booger sugar, then
oh, oh.
then who knows where his
Oh, no,
who
that
knows where
guy
his
is
career
damn
would have
sugar.
gone, right? Who knows where his career would have gone? And in truth, now that he's going to heavyweight, like you look at him and he's not a physical specimen at heavyweight. He does look pudgy, doesn't look like super jacked. And then you look at the heavyweight division, it is very smart for him to do this, right? Because if he had to stay in light heavyweight, he'd be facing a lot of very lean, trim killers.
Yeah.
He's going into a heavyweight division now that is pretty much in flux. And especially if you refuse to fight Tom Aspinall and you
Right.
just hide from him,
Well, yeah,
uh,
and the age average for heavyweights is his age or older. Like if you can do a statistical analysis on what the average age
yeah,
is. Heavyweights, they last longer, they bloom, whatever. And I really appreciate that. Whenever you see stare downs at like weigh-ins, you never see any of that drama, man. In fact, that segue, that's Timmy B and his genius because he knew our next topic was going to talk about the heavyweights. Mark that down on my timestamp, okay? So guys, listen, we have a top 5 tribute for topic 2 every week, and this week is going to be no different. And this week we are going to dedicate it to the heavyweights. Now, like I said before, there's a lot of fighters that need to hype up their fights in different weight categories. You see them at the press conferences, you see them at the weigh-ins, you see the stare down, maybe some physical contact, some people have to be broken up, but very rarely do you see that for the heavyweights because to quote John McCain, who tried to ban the UFC, walk quietly but with a big stick. So the
yeah.
question for topic 2 is what are your 5 favorite heavyweight MMA matches at all time? It's an unfair question, so allow me to go first. Starting my clock. All right, number 5, I like Mark Hunt against Antonio Bigfoot Silva. Now, this match took place in 2013. There were takedown defenses, some submission defenses, and they beat the living heck out of each other for 5 rounds, bloodied, battered, and beaten, that went to a decision that both men were happy they survived and celebrated. Goes to number 4, Gonzaga versus Mirko Cro Cop. A lot of hype about Cro Cop coming into the UFC. No one heard of Gonzaga. Gonzaga took him down, mauled him with 10 seconds left. Gonzaga Cro Copped Crow Cop. If you don't know what we're talking about, stop watching this or just look it up. Number 3, Fabricio Verdum beats Cain Velasquez for the heavyweight title. Beat him on his feet. His coach in the beginning of the third round says you have to take him down, and when he did, got guillotine choke. Congratulations to Fabricio that got cut by the UFC, recut his teeth in Strikeforce, and came back and became the heavyweight champion of the world. Number 2, we had Fedor Emelianenko against Andrei Arlovsky. This was an affliction match, right? And Andre was still dangerous. So it was lightning in the bottle. Very short match. Andre rocked him, and everyone thought like the king, there was a kink in the armor, and just when you thought there was a kink in the armor, he went for a flying knee, and just like a video like a Street Fighter video game, got punched in midair, knocked out in midair, and then dropped in midair. Give me just enough time for number 1, Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier 2. The beginning of the match looked like Cormier was going to finish him early, and if he didn't, he was going to ride out a decision. Then something happened. Went to the body. Miocic went to the body again, went to the body like 8 times, and Daniel Cormier decided he didn't like that. Covered the bodies, got hit in the head, and got KO'd. And doing the stupid leprechaun dance to regain his title was Stipe Miocic, and those are my 5 heavyweight favorite fights. Not top 5, but my favorite of all time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like it, dude. Good list. Good list.
Good.
We only have one fight in common.
Let's do it.
All right. My top 5 fights in no specific order, but I will start with the one that we did have similar. Gonzaga versus Crow Cop, UFC 70. I had that one, man. Dude, I remember sitting in a bar watching that fight, and when Gonzaga threw that head kick that you can hear like a baseball bat against that skull, beautiful, beautiful fight. Then he goes up, and forever this was like a scene that UFC would play, but when Gonzaga goes up against the fence and he goes, to
right? The camera.
Like, yeah, so that was like a big moment. So okay, that's a good one. Next fight, I'm gonna go all the way back to UFC 6. Oleg Taktarov versus Tank Abbott.
Tank Abbott.
It's just a classic fight, man. It went for like 17 minutes. Half of that, they were just lying on one another dead. But it was just such a crazy fight. Back in the times of no rounds, no nothing, 17 straight minutes. Oleg Taktarov, one of the greatest. He went on to do some good movies as well. And then against Tank Abbott, who's a total legend. Next fight I'm going to say is UFC 81. It's Brock Lesnar versus Frank Mir #1, which is where Frank Mir beats Brock Lesnar in his debut. To me, that was just such a cool thing, dude. I just thought, hey, there's Frank Mir standing up for true MMA fighters, takes out this gigantic beast that everybody thought was going to just wreck the division. And Frank Mir said, no, this is what us pros do. That's a great fight. I had to throw in my friend. I've had him on my podcast, Chris Beast Boy Barnett against Gian Vellante. Chris Beast Boy Barnett, giant, big, chubby guy, comes over and spinning heel kicks Gian Vellante into the nether realm, and then does his celebratory dance of where he does the standing somersault onto his bum. He's laughing. Such a great dude. You cannot miss that fight. It's on UFC Fight Pass. Oh, of course it's on UFC Fight Pass, but I think it might even be on YouTube. UFC 268, that's where that one is. My final one, and this is more because I'm a terrible person. 1FC, I'm going to go over to 1FC. I'm going to say Anatoly Malikin, who was the 3-division champ until he just lost his title last week. He beat Arjun Buller at 1FC Friday Fights 22. This was a couple years ago. Arjun Buller was the heavyweight champion at the time. He's a Canadian, lives and trains in Canada, and at some point he stops representing the Canadian flag and only represents the Indian flag. As a Canadian, screw that guy. I was dying for him to get whooped because I did not like him. All the other fighters, if you have 2 countries, you have both your flags. This guy suddenly
like even Tito did that. Even Tito had 2.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He just suddenly ditches the Canadian flag halfway through his career in 1FC.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell, dude? You're Canadian. You live in Canada. You train in Canada. And he just did not represent Canada anymore. I don't know what the story is there, but whatever. I didn't care. He got whooped, and I was so happy. So that's one of my favorite heavyweight fights.
Okay, here's what I like about our list. I liked the Brock Lesnar Frank Mir match because if you watch in the beginning, 4 seconds, he got a takedown, right? And
Yeah.
it looked like Brock, you couldn't even see Frank's face. All you saw was these big soup bowls. And then Mazzagatti stops the fight because of a shot to the back of the head, which everyone hates Mazzagatti, but that was the right call. And
Yeah.
maybe take a point, maybe give him a warning. Who knows? Who cares? But the whole time, Frank is ripping out of these triangle chops, raw, big upper body, big upper body, big upper body. And it's like, but what about them legs? What about them legs? And then,
Yeah.
and people that didn't know mixed martial arts didn't know what was happening until Brock tried to literally jump out of it, and when he couldn't, just tapping out like a grown man with respect to Brock. I ain't trying to get beat up. The
Yeah.
other thing I wanted to say for everybody, go back and watch this Crocop Gonzaga match because it wasn't
Yeah.
just him getting a head kicked. Watch the way Crocop lands. Watch his body spins, but his foot stays on the ground. And it was the gnarliest. His foot was backwards.
Oh,
And the only
yeah.
thing that saved him from injury is one, he was unconscious. And two, Herb slightly lifted up his heel and it rubber band back into place, which I didn't think you could do. I just thought a break was a break. And he got up. No, but he got up and he limped out.
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
supposed, we saw that. You saw that. You're not supposed, dude,
Yeah.
you ain't supposed to limp out from that.
Yeah.
You're supposed to
Yeah.
be stretchered out. You're supposed to be in the worst pain of your life, and that is the end of your career. And that was on free TV because they had contractual issues with the UK, USC 75, right?
I think
And that was Rampage Jackson against Dan
April
Henderson.
I have it as April 2007. I didn't put the thing, but yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
whatever it was.
And
But
the
yeah,
main event, I think the main event was Henderson against Rampage because that wasn't even a main event. That was the co-main event.
no. Yeah,
Maybe.
no, it was not.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do I know? I'm talking to Timmy B, man. I'm talking to Timmy B.
Look, the point of it is cannot miss that fight. And I guarantee you that a lot of the people listening to this show right now, that's probably a way old fight. That's 17 years ago. Guarantee a lot of people weren't UFC fans then. That's a fight to go check out for sure.
It was one of the 10 biggest at the time, maybe still survives, one of the 10 biggest upsets, right? Because no one knew who Gonzaga was. And Gonzaga got a title shot.
Yep.
Subsequently lost to Randy
right
Couture.
after it. Yeah.
Right. Randy actually blocked one of those head kicks and he broke his hand or arm, right? From blocking a head kick.
Yeah.
And Randy took him down and gave him noogies, until the ref said he had enough. I'll give you noogies. Yeah. All right. So let's go to topic 3. Topic 3 is typically and traditionally our MMA pick 6. And I bring your attention to UFC 309. Now, there's usually a drum roll to the main event, but we're going to start main event first and work the main event down. Let's start with Jon Jones. We'll share a minute, but I think between the both of us, we'll probably say everything we got to say and less so. Time spared. So, Jon Jones, Stipe Miocic, who wins?
Obviously, Jon Jones is going to win. Stipe Miocic, I don't even think he knew he was fighting until a few days ago. Okay, the guy's never around. He's never in any gym photos, never at any events, never in anybody's corner. You never hear of him. You never see him. I don't know how much he was in training at all. The only thing I will say, I had on my podcast his training partner for this fight, which is Daniel the Predator James from Bellator fame. He's been training with Stipe and putting in the work and putting in the hours. He says Stipe is freaking ready to go. He says Stipe is going to kill Jon Jones. He says Stipe is ready and looking hot. For that reason alone, and I don't think Daniel James would lie to me, bet your money on Stipe.
Once again, you've heard me say this on previous episodes. I got 8 Mile again. Eminem from 8 Mile. This guy spent the entire minute saying everything that I was about to say against him. The only problem is we're agreeing, so I'm not going to have a debate about agreeing with you. And
really? You're going to go for Stipe?
And the only glaring difference between you and me is I had no logical reason. You had logical reasons. You have people that appreciated this training camp, and I'm picking Stipe for this. You're picking Jones, right?
No, I'm picking Stipe.
Oh, good. All right.
I'm picking. I mean,
no, because in the
logic
beginning of the
tells you-
minute, okay, got you.
Yeah, logic tells you pick Jon Jones. Obviously, don't be an idiot.
Right.
But I talked with his training partner.
And he says he's a mother freaker, huh?
He says he's freaking ready, and I feel the world is counting Stipe out. Stipe could shock
and you know
the
what?
world
He
like
could get. He'll do the
crazy.
interview and be like, "Yep," and still, you know what I'm saying? Like he's not. He is a promotional expert's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
How do you feel about winning
Yeah.
the match? I feel good. How do you feel? You know,
I'm
you know,
all right.
how you feel about
Yeah.
all the talk? It's that's your thing. That's not my thing. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
That
know.
was like Inglorious Bastards when they're like, "You will be taken out and shot." And he's like, "Nah, I'll just get chewed out. I've been chewed out before." All
Yeah.
right, so we go to topic number 3. We go to the second match. We go Charles Oliveira against Michael Chandler. Let's share this minute, buddy. I'm gonna go first. Chandler is dangerous. Chandler sometimes when he catches someone and you see some of these one punch knockouts, you wonder if the person's actually gonna not just be revived, but if they're gonna are they gonna be able to walk out? And it is gruesome. And sometimes I got people in the room that don't like MMA, that don't want to watch it for reasons like Chandler. But with that being said, Do Bronx knows how to roll with shots. Do Bronx has more tool in the toolbox. I'm going Charles Oliveira.
I hate this fight. I feel like Charles Oliveira is kind of on his way out. I feel like he's kind of seen his heyday, and I don't know that he's ever gonna get it back. But Chandler, he's just so unlikable to me. Uh, I don't know, man. I'm gonna go with Oliveira as well. I think Oliveira maybe gets it done. I think like Chandler's been waiting 2 years, 3 years to fight McGregor. I think he's psychologically probably ruined during that whole time, so I'm gonna go with Oliveira.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Boom. All right. We're going to take less than a minute on this because I've have very little research on these girls in our highlighter. I'm sorry, Rojo against Silva. And I know you want to promote people for the pay-per-view, people you've never seen before, but this is very, very obscure. And I try to watch
Yeah.
some back matches, and I have a very small sample size, but the more well-rounded fighter is Silva. I go with her.
Wait, which one are you going with?
Silva.
What is the name you're saying?
We don't even know the freaking name.
Viviane Araujo?
That's
Or s-
Viviane, right?
oh, is that the name you're saying? Okay. I don't know. Take your pick, dude. I don't care about this fight. I don't think anybody does. It's in the flyweight division. Nobody cares about that division. I'll go with Viviane Araujo, 12
It's
and 6.
This is the concession stand. This is the
This is
go get a drink match. This is so.
and here's the thing, dude. I am a super fan of women's MMA. I
That's what I'm
am not
saying. We're not. There's
I
no
it's
sexism
not
here, dude.
Yeah, it's not like that, but this is a freaking weird women's fight to put on this card. Like there is, unfortunately not a lot of star power there. There's no I don't know, is this for a number one contender? Who the frig knows? But it's a very weird fight to put on this card in this spot. I appreciate that they're putting a women's fight on the main card,
Yeah.
but this is not the fight to put. I'd be putting the fight that's opening the early prelims, which is
Yeah.
Veronica Hardy, who's been kicking ass, who's very marketable, who's very cool. I'd be putting her on the main card ahead of this fight.
And that's a shame because that's a shame for Silva for sorry Karine Silva. Like I'm a prisoner of the moment. Okay, her last match was an uneventful decision, and I like decisions, but I like decisions where there's constant
Yeah.
motion, where there's not this whole unofficial handshake. I'm gonna rest on top of you, or we're gonna rest against the cage, right? This woman's a submission machine, right? Her last 3 fights were submissions. In fact, I'm looking at her Wikipedia page. Her last 4 fights were submissions. In fact, of her 18 wins, 17 of them, only one went to a decision. That's the most recent one. So it's very, very unfair of me to not to do a lot of homework on both of these fighters, but also very unfair for the UFC to hand her this opponent that doesn't move the pay-per-view needle. What are they doing?
No, look, to be fair, a lot of these fights don't move the pay-per-view needle, and I think that's why they
Like,
put them on this card
well,
because you don't need to when you have Jon Jones at the top.
it's a sacrificial lamb fight, all right? Because Viviane, I can tell you, Viviane lost 3 of her last 4. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
And the other girl, to my knowledge, has won at least 6 in a row. And I'm going again, clicking back on her Wikipedia page. I see 1, 2, 3, 4,
you're spending
6,
so much.
7, 8,
You're
9 wins in a row.
you're literally spending more time on this fight
Yep,
than even
next.
UFC did.
Anyway, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
their
Nobody
contract
cares.
is probably faster than this. The lawyers are looking at us like, yo, my man, let's move on. All right, topic number 4. We go Bo Nickel and we go Daniel Craig. This is a middleweight match.
Paul Craig. He's not fighting James Bond.
I know,
Paul
Daniel
Craig.
Craig. You know, it's weird. I avoided Paul Craig to say Daniel Craig. What is wrong with me? So Daniel
Huh.
Craig, one of the memories, I'll go first. One of the memories I have of him was at 205, and it was against Ankalaev, right? And it was 205, and he had a little time left, and I think with 1 second, just like slapped on a triangle choke, and this otherwise boring match became this exciting adrenaline rush, and people have been watching him ever since. The guy paints his face, fought at 205, he's at 185, and boy did he pick the wrong 185 to mess with. Bo is going to nickel this man.
You got Bo?
Yes, an emphatic Bo. He's just better everywhere.
I pray to God every time that Bo Nickel fights that he loses, but I don't think that Paul Craig is the guy to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if Paul Craig wins, but I think Bo Nickel takes it. The only reason I am happy about Bo Nickel being on this card is that because he is there, I believe that President Donald Trump will be in attendance because Donald Trump likes Bo Nickel and said prior to the election, back when he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, he really likes Bo Nickel, wants to watch him fight, and he said, as long as I win the presidency, I will be at UFC 309 in attendance to watch Bo Nickel.
It's New York too, so you know he's gonna be there. You know, and for my YouTube people,
Yeah.
calm
Well,
down.
no, but he had,
My
no,
YouTube
but he,
people, calm down. We're not running an election ad here, okay? Just because we said the T word. Relax. Sorry.
but he had said, what was funny was on the Rogan podcast, he had said that if he lost the election, he would not go because he'd be too depressed. So he won. He will be there. The crowd is going to go freaking nuts. And
Yeah.
but I don't know.
This is, I
Bo
mean,
Nickel, fine.
yeah. I mean, it's certainly not the first or last time the man's been to the Garden, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bo Nickel, you know, one of the two of those guys has prettier ears, right? I'll leave it up to you. The only difference is one did it wrestling. What's the orange man's excuse? Well, he got shot. But let's go to number 5. This one is going to be a preliminary match, and I guess some guys with a blue check next to their name. We got Chris Weidman, former middleweight champion in the UFC. He's facing Eric, ya boy, Anders. You're gonna go first on this. Go, buddy.
Anybody that's ever come on my podcast, I vote for them every single time. Eric, ya boy, Anders has been on my show. He's a great dude. I love that guy. I actually know him because when he was in Toronto for something, he went to my buddy's place for therapeutic massage. Shout out to Dylan and his massage therapy place. That's my guy. Eric Anders. I think Chris Weidman is long done. That guy is insufferable. I cannot like this guy. I think you like him though. But yeah, Eric Anders is going to get it done.
This will be the first time in my MMA commentary podcast that I actually pick against Weidman. This is about the only thing Weidman has on his side is good coaching. All right, but you got to have the body to do something about it. This fight is about twitch reaction. This fight is about superior wrestling. This fight is about positioning, dominating the center of the cage, and Eric Anders is dominant in all of these, and he's going to win, and it's going to be ugly. And I really wish Chris.
Wow.
I really wish Chris would stop fighting. As far as nice guys are concerned, I don't even think Stephen Thompson will get me to like Eric Anders more than we like him right now. Eric Anders, with this being said, I want to say one more thing about him. Nick Saban guy, you can tell. Nick Saban, the way he coaches the kids, address people as sir, ma'am. They're respectful. They're hardworking. They're the first one there. Holds a chair for women. You know what I'm saying? Give up the seat for old ladies. And Chris can say all the same things. It is kind of the battle of the nice guys. And this is why, because they're both nice guys, I don't really, I'm not really that shy to talk about someone other than Weidman being a nice guy. But Weidman's got to stop. It's breaking my heart.
Yeah, I can tell, man. I can see it in your eyes. It's like hurting you deep.
He's one of my favorite fighters all time.
Another throwaway useless fact. Eric Anders did a cameo appearance, not a cameo appearance, because he had an acting role in Cobra Kai, which finishes up its season next week. Season 6, the final second half. Eric Anders was in an episode of Cobra Kai as Vicente, and he got into a fight with good old Johnny Lawrence.
Nice. More MMA guys in film, please. Give these guys their SAG card. I really like George St. Pierre. I
Yeah,
think in one of the
in
Expendables
Marvel.
movies. I really like Tyron Woodley. He was on some CBS shows, I think Hawaii Five O, whatever. He's just
Yep.
his face, also Straight Outta Compton. Like his face, the camera. The film is about the camera loving your face. For everybody else, just do
Yep.
stage. All right, do a gosh darn play. But yeah, again, breaks my heart. And if Chris can hear this, he knows it does. It's not personal.
All
We
right.
just have to be more candid.
Yep.
Now, match of interest, we got to pick our own.
Sure.
I'm gonna go first on this one, and I am just a sucker for Mickey Gall. I just really like the guy. The
Oh,
guy comes to the cage with the song "Hey Mickey," right? He was the first one to beat CM Punk, and of course, then beat Michael Jackson. Made some big call outs. They were denied call outs, but he's just such a great personality. He's got like that Jersey boy mentality in the good way, right? Depending on where you are in Jersey, because that could be another way. And this guy Brahimaj is going to be a mother freaker, and sadly, I don't think Gall's gonna win this. I think he's gonna lose by decision, but it's great to see him back at the Garden.
yeah. For me, my pick.
Yeah, you could take all the time you need. You were supposed to have a whole minute.
Yeah, man. My pick. I go with the people that I've had on my show, and I've had Marcus McGee on this show. I do like him. He's the main event of the prelims, I think.
Right.
Marcus McGee, he's an absolute killer. So bet all your money on him. But my pick for fight that I wanted to highlight was the guy that beat Mickey in his last fight, a good friend of mine, Basil the Habibi Hafez. That dude, absolute stone cold killer, this guy. I'm telling you, what is terrible is that Basil Hafez is fighting before Mickey Gall. He just beat Mickey Gall.
And he's on an
Basil
early
Hafez,
prelim, and he's on the early prelim instead of the prelim.
I mean, both of that is crazy, but Basil Hafez is 9-3-1, facing a guy in Oban Elliott who's 11-2. Mickey Gall is 7-6, fighting a guy who's 10-5. Both those guys have worse records than Basil and his opponent. So I don't know how you schedule this. Whatever. Basil Hafez is a future champion. That dude looks like Sabretooth in the Marvel movies. That guy is an absolute gentleman and such a great guy, such a great human being. I love that guy. Basil Hafez is going to get a big win there, and that's a fight to watch. Performance of the night coming up.
And big up to both of us for not going a basic B with Jim Miller, right? Jim Miller's just so much
Yeah.
fun to watch, and we could have easily
Yep.
we could have been not intellectually lazy, but just classic lazy, and went with him, and we didn't. So
No, there's
good
lots
good
of
luck,
dude,
Jim
there's-
Miller, but kudos to both of us on that one.
yeah, lots of great fights, but yeah, I think you and I definitely pulled out the performance of the night on that.
Yeah, that was terrific. Yeah, well, we hope to cash in with Stipe, man. That's plus 500, man. Let's
Okay, what's crazy about that
maybe I
really
get with
quick?
my guy.
Plus 500 isn't even as bad as the odds when Aljo beat Peter
Oh,
Yan,
Peter John, yeah. Yep.
because he was plus 600 back then. So I'm surprised that the odds aren't even more out of whack against Stipe.
Yeah.
That means people are betting on Stipe.
Well, it is New York. It is the beats the odds people, right? Think of like,
Yeah.
God, it's crazy. Like the three people that pulled off the biggest upsets were all from the same camp, right? Sarah Longo, Matt Serra beat St. Pierre, the biggest upset probably in MMA. Period. Maybe
Yeah,
ever.
forever.
Maybe in any
Yep.
sport. I don't know. I mean, that was just lopsided. What? And then you got Weidman knocking out Anderson Silva, right?
Yep.
Anderson Silva playing games in the octagon, and then of course you got our guy Aljo that
Aljo beating Yan. Yep.
yeah, but won a second time, so I got to give him that. I mean, maybe,
Of course,
so,
whatever
yeah.
though. But
All right.
yeah, stats are stats.
All right, so that wraps up segment number 3. Now bring you segment 4. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna explore outside of MMA, but stay in combat sports. I bring you to shame, or not to shame.
Shame. Shame. Shame. Shame. Shame.
Oh boy, they did Cersei so bad. Even she is the worst evil character as far as characters. Like what you want to wish bad stuff on. They did her so bad. Even I felt bad for her. I'm like, I can't. How do I feel bad for Cersei? That's ridiculous, dude. So, to shame or not to shame, we'll go back to our 1 minute clock. And
Yep.
we got Jake Paul fighting Mike Tyson this weekend.
Yeah.
Just on a collective and why this is a shame and why this isn't, because we might have two different perspectives that lead to our.
Wait, explain the rules of this. What
Jake
am I?
Paul is fighting Mike Tyson. Give me
No,
a
I
reason
know
why
that.
why this is no shame or shame. Give me something that you like about it, where you're like, whatever. Look, this is. I'll go first. How about? All right, check it out. Let me go first, and then
Okay.
and you could jump rope with me. We'll play double dutch. All right, 5, 4, 3, 21. All right, so when I saw this fight, I'm like, this is ridiculous, right? Jake Paul manipulated everybody into thinking like Mike Tyson has everything to gain and nothing to lose. He's old, blah, blah, blah. And then played this sophomoric psychology game with everyone, and everyone bought into it. When my psychology is opposite. He has everything to lose and nothing to gain. He has everything to lose in regards to his legacy, right? He knocks this guy out. He's a professional boxer, and even at an old age, he's supposed to. And if he's young, you took a dive for some young cat or whatever. So I think of it from, in fact, a polar opposite or whatever, because no matter what his age is, there's two very important things I want you to remember. To his fans, he's Mike Tyson until they see a 58-year-old. He's going to be Mike Tyson to them until they see this version of Mike Tyson. So even if he wins, he's not Mike Tyson anymore. I've seen this with Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali's fought past his prime, and the fight that I saw him fight, he won, but he wasn't Muhammad Ali. I don't like what this does for his legacy. So this is just stupid, and because his Twitch reaction again is not as fast, but he still has God's hand. I am authentically afraid for Paul. Go ahead. Do you get the shame or no shame now? Is it
Yeah. I'm okay.
Let's go. Go ahead.
This is a fake fight. This fight is fake. And what is going to happen is Jake Paul is going to lose. And here's why. Jake Paul cannot win this fight because if he wins it, everybody will say it's rigged. Okay? He cannot win that fight because it is a losing battle to him if he does. Because if he wins, everyone will say it's fake. But if he loses, he will be able to say, I went up against the baddest man on the planet. I went up against Tyson and I stood my ground. And that will give him kudos from people. He is going to lose by a body shot in the later rounds. I don't think it will go to decision. I think it will be a body shot in the later rounds. Why a body shot? Because it's easier to act that. You take a shot to the kidney, it paralyzes you for 30 seconds to 1 minute, and then you're up. Anybody that's trained has eaten a shot like that, has gone down, and within a minute, you're back up. Because then he'll be able to stand back up, he'll be able to make comments, he'll be able to talk to the camera. It's a fake fight, but it's rigged so that Tyson wins. Tyson doesn't lose his legacy. Tyson doesn't look stupid. And Tyson's not a guy that is going to take a dive for anyone. If anybody thinks that this is a real fight between a mid-20-year-old and a 60-year-old guy who had medical problems last month and who was in a wheelchair like 6 months ago, you're crazy. It's not happening. It's a fake fight, but Tyson is going to win to keep the story realistic.
Fake fight is the only thing that makes this believable. Because outside of that, man, I thought you bought into the whole hoodwink Jake Paul's reverse I'm saying sophomoric psychology because I'm trying to be polite here, guys. But I get it. It's got to be a dive situation, and yeah, and there's a lot of people fooled, myself included. I'm fooled.
It's the only way that it makes sense, man. It's the only way that it makes sense, because otherwise, if this is real, then, to go along with this segment, shame on every mother put this together,
right,
to set up Mike Tyson to go fight against a 20-something-year-old. It's not cool, dude. It is not cool, and shame on anybody that put this up for real, if it is real. But your boy Timmy B is saying this is fake as hell.
And your
fake,
boy
fake as shit.
and my boy Timmy B presents a valid argument. And now after this podcast, I gotta let that swirl on my head as I watch this on Wednesday morning. I watch Sports Debate Tuesday on Wednesday morning. How you guys roll? I'll tell you how we roll. We're going to topic 4. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you or present to you a quick question. Here we go. Let's see. Oops. Yeah, this is why you don't tech your own show, buddy. What are you doing, Jay? Like that. Hey, all right. So we are at quick question. Going on my paperwork. Quick question. How good was Prates? How good was Carlos Prates this weekend? He starched Neil Magny, and now he's finally got a number next to his name. Did you see the match? And it's not. I guess maybe it's a longer question, but like, just initial thought or knee-jerk reaction. What do you think of this kid?
Yeah, he's good, man. He's really, really freaking good.
Yep.
He's got the talent, he's got the skill, he's very humble and well-spoken himself, because in the pre-shows you see him there sitting there with his mom, and the mom telling the story about putting him into the martial arts class because he had too much energy as a kid and stuff like that. And then the teacher within the first day goes, this guy's going to be a champion of the world. So this guy has the story, he has the upbringing. I mean, look at the knockouts, dude. Knocking out, Neil Magny's a little bit long in the tooth as well, but knocking out Neil Magny in the first round, knocking out Li Jingliang the Leech in the second round, knocking out my boy Charles Chuck Buffalo Radke in the first round, knocking out Trevin Giles in the second round. It's just knockout after knockout after knockout. Like he's kicking ass, man. He's a guy that's headed for the top, and it's very exciting to see his fights. I'm very excited to see this guy.
Cool, man. Hey, a quick question. What surprised you more, Max getting stopped by Elena Topuria or Neil Magny getting stopped?
Surprised me more. I don't think either of them surprised me, because those guys have both been in wars, and they were both fighting guys that are warriors. Maybe I guess which one surprised me more? Maybe the Max one surprised me more in reality, because I think people probably were betting a little bit more on Max to even win that fight.
Max had to sorry.
No, I think the odds against Magny were pretty high, man. I don't think a lot of people saw Magny win in that fight, so getting knocked out wasn't crazy.
A far stretch. Yeah, I got to go Max with you on this one, because Max is one fight removed from the BMF match where for the last 10 seconds of that fight, he invited a very dangerous person capable of knocking him out and just bit on his mouthpiece and changed shots, right? So for him to get knocked out at 145 was a huge surprise to me. Losing, maybe not necessarily. Topuria, for everyone watching Topuria, we knew he was a real one, but wow, what a KO. Is Jon Jones done with MMA after this match?
He's either done or you vacate the title, you mother piece of crap. Like, you cannot put the heavyweight division on hold like this, dude. You've got Tom Aspinall with the interim title. Either defend or vacate.
Well, I agree with you.
Zero option here. And if I had to guess what's going to happen, I think he plays the shit out. I think he's going to contract negotiate forever and just cause drama in the heavyweight division that we do not need. Defend or vacate, get the hell out of here. But I worry that he's not going to retire after. I don't think he drops his gloves in the cage, which then puts us up for contract disputes for the next year. And poor Tom Aspinall has to go get a second job while he earns money waiting to be able to fight someone, because why should he have to defend an interim title twice?
Yeah, well, yeah, unless Stipe wins, right? Well, I'm not a big fan of interim. Sure. I'm not a fan of interim titles, but the one thing I do like about interim title, it at least gives the promoters permission to say defend your title or crap or get off the pot.
But they won't do it to Jones, though. Dana White won't do that to Jones.
But at least they know they can. They won't, but they can. It's not under false pretenses. Again, the guy won and wants to fight, wants a shot at who's supposed to be the champion of the world. How about Stipe? Is he done after this match? I wonder if he just wins and says, I wanted to see how good I was against Jon, and I wasn't good enough, or hey, turns out I was, and and I leave and still. Yeah.
I think Stipe retires win or lose. I think Stipe retires. I think he's ready to make that. Like I said earlier in the show, you never see him. You never see him training with anybody. You never see him in anybody's corner. You never see him. I don't think he's really part of the MMA world as a whole. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's really in it like other people are. He's not cornering other people. He's not. It doesn't seem like he's training other people. Blah blah blah. I think win or lose, he retires. For that reason, you don't really want him to win because then it creates a paper champion in the next,
No, but
right,
at
in the
least you
next
know he's
belt.
gone, right? He's not going to hold
No,
up
no, no, I
hold up the
understand,
show
but
for the next 2 years. I was going to say year and a half, but that really means two, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's done after this, no matter what. And
Got it.
and good for him, man. He's had an incredible life and an incredible career. He's got a career as a fireman, and he's got a wife, and blah blah blah. For all intents and purposes, we believe that he's happy and healthy.
Yeah.
Go live that
With only
life, dude.
24 hours in a day, we know where the hell his time is going. I mean, right? You have this finite amount of time to do things in a day if you're a full-time firefighter. Jan versus Figueiredo. Figueiredo's debut or second fight maybe at 135. Who wins this? Or is it 135?
You know what? I always like the friggin' Figgy because I think his hair is so cool with the blonde and the red stripe. Like, I
You know
think he's so
something
cool.
about
But then,
cool hair. Yeah.
yeah, but then he never really does anything. So I don't know. But Jan has been so disappointing as well. Like ever since he lost to Aljo, his I think he just lost his mojo is what it really was. But both of these guys have lost their mojo. Uh, Figueiredo has a little bit more of an exciting style and has the heavy power. I'll go with Figgy on it, just for the excitement factor.
Right. I go Figgy too.
Yeah.
Bilal Muhammad against, oh my God, Rachmaninoff. I believe he's still undefeated. That dude is, woo. But
Now
you
this
know
fight
what,
is
though?
canceled though. This fight is canceled.
Really? Well, that's a
Bilal
skip.
pulled out.
That's a skip then. All right, good. How about Gary or Buckley? Is that fight still on?
Gary versus Buckley is still on. Oh God. I mean, if there's anyone I want to lose more than who was the guy I said I wanted to lose?
Machado, probably.
Bo Nickel.
Yeah,
If there's anyone I want to lose more than Bo Nickel, it's
it's Machado.
stupid Ian Gary. Like I can't stand that dude, and I
Who
hope he
called
gets
him Machado?
crushed.
Where did it even come from?
Wait, do you not know the story?
It's no longer a quick question. Go, baby.
It's his wife's last name because when he married his wife, the Wag, she has a child, and so he took her last name so that the child could share the last name with the mom and the dad.
Huh.
But they couldn't change the kid's last name or something. It's some sort of story like that. It's her. Now, the story going around the internet was that it was her ex-husband's last name that he
Got
took,
it.
but it's not. She's a what do you call it? Like a TV personality and stuff. So she has a stage name.
Yeah.
So that's why people didn't realize that that's her actual last name, not her like stage last name.
I really appreciate the nobility in supporting your wife, but what I think from a misogynistic or just
Dude,
a
it's
non-sexist
really weird.
standpoint, why not just like my wife's professional name? She kept her name. I kept mine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's the problem? What's this?
Well,
Forget
I
all
think
this
for
God and country nonsense.
I think for children, it's the sense that like when, like my understanding would be that when you go over to that kid's house, if you're another kid and you go, "Oh, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Machado," but he's not really Mr. Machado, blah blah blah,
Got
or
you.
like, if you say, "Hey, Mr. Mr. Smith," but the wife hasn't taken the last name Smith, and you're saying, "Hi, Mrs. Smith," and she's not Mrs. Smith. I think that's the bull crap. But ultimately, who gives a crap? And in today's day and age, everybody's gonna get divorced anyway. So I don't know. It's pretty stupid that he's taking her
Yeah.
last name
And
anyways.
then they married a
Uh,
second person, so it's like, so what's your name? Gingrich or DeBeas? Murkison. Three names now. Three names.
yeah,
What about
but
our? I saved this question for last, but go ahead, finish your thought.
but Buckley's good, man. Buckley's freaking good.
Mhm.
He's got a lot of chips on his shoulder. He really wants that title. He really wants to move up. He doesn't like the way that the media and Daniel Cormier and other people have spoken about him. His last call out, he got in trouble because he said some stuff, and then Daniel Cormier and other members of the media kind of went off on him. he's got a lot of chip on his shoulder, and I think by beating Ian Gary, he'd really shut a lot of people up. So
I do remember that. I
but
think it was like before the post-fight interview. He was like, "Hey, like was that the call out? He called out Daniel
I
Cormier for
think he
like,
called someone out. Then they said that's
right,
bullshit. Was it he was calling Connor out? Maybe whoever
maybe,
it was,
who
he was
knows?
calling out. They're like, that's you're stepping out of your lane and blah blah
Then
blah.
don't
Screw you,
ask
man.
him, right?
Yeah,
Why you gonna
yeah,
ask?
yeah,
They looking for wrong answers.
yeah,
All right. Anyway,
yeah. It's stupid.
don't
Who cares?
get me started. That's a
Mm.
shorter story. That's not even worth it. Last question, very important question. To you, is Bobby Green done? Does he does he have more fights? Should he just keep going?
You son
Um,
of a.
yeah.
First of all, you know that Bobby Green is my greatest fighter of all time, and that
Yes.
he's on Mount Everest alone, in my opinion. Like that, there's just Bobby Green.
I'm a
No, man,
fan
he's
of
not
Bobby Green
done.
because of you.
He's not done. What was his last fight where he lost to Ian Gary, right? Or no, Paddy Pimblett. Sorry, Paddy
Yeah.
Pimblett. No, Bobby Green is a freaking showman. He's still healthy as shit. He goes out on his shield all the time and he fights hard, man. The guy is a character. No, that guy's not done. I don't think he's done physically or mentally. I think he's still got good age. He's still got good fight. There's tons of great fights lined up for that dude, man. And here's a fight that I would like to see. Actually, I made a poster for it like a year ago, and I think now it almost fits. Max Holloway versus Bobby Green for the BMF title. They're both coming off losses. They're both around the same weight class. Max can move up to meet Bobby. I think that's a fight that it's a stand-up war, and both of those guys go to town, and they're both fan favorites.
They're both willing to walk each other down.
Book
What?
it. Yeah.
Yes, book it. In fact, they won't even train for that. Sign them. Yo, have them replace the Bilal fight. I'll tell you what, they'll just do a catch weight at like 167 or something, or 160, and just,
Whatever.
yeah, lace them up, baby.
Yeah.
All right, that's the end of quick question. But before we go, I wanted to I hate giving shout out to big institutions, but MMA Fighting produced this really cool video called UFC 309 Timeline. And I'm an hour into it. I don't know how long the video is, but it's a chronology of just like a mini documentary of Jon Jones' path to the title, post title, and Stipe. So they're doing like this timeline, and boom, there's Stipe, there's Jon, like this race that leads to a head. And I thought it was very, very well produced. And I think for a lot of new fans, if you're trying to get them to care about the characters of this film or whatever, well done, MMA Fighting. So kudos to you, and a rare shout out I give to someone bigger than us. Timmy B, anything you want to say before we leave?
No, man, I just want to say thank you for having me again. Guys, enjoy the fights. UFC 309 is going to be freaking incredible. So watch all the fights from the early prelims on. Don't miss the early prelims. It's got some great fights. Thanks for having me on, man. If you guys want to see more MMA stuff, always check me out. Fight Insight Podcast. You can find it on YouTube. I'm now on Millions as well, and I'm doing a bunch of interviews for Millions as well with a bunch of different athletes. You can get my shirt on Millions. I'm going to sell this bad boy. It's way better than the ones that I sold before. Millions makes
I
them
want
good.
one.
Go check that out on Millions. And I am going to be commentating this weekend at Fight League Atlantic's last pay-per-view of the year. It's on Saturday as well. It's on a little bit earlier, though, than UFC 309, so you won't miss it. Check out my commentary, fightleagueatlantic.com for the pay-per-view. It's FLA 17, incredible fights out in New Brunswick, Canada. That's it for me, my friend. I love being here, man.
I want one of those shirts too. So let me tell you guys something. This guy might love you, but I don't like any of you guys. In fact, I can't stand any of you. So for all of you at home, for all of you on your iPads, for all of you on your Starbucks or lunch line or whatever you call it, for all of you on your desktop who runs the world, old school brothers like me, baby. Old school brothers like Timmy B. For my man, Timmy B, the founder and co-host and grounded and foundation of the Fight Inside podcast. I am Jason DeBiss. This is Sports Debate Tuesday. We're going to hit my music. Thank you for putting up with my bumbling. We are out of here. Come check out the Option Podcast on OptionVB.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.